Julie Ann Link, and welcome to the Music Link. This week on the Let's Link project, I'd like to welcome the founder and bassoonist of the Paradise Winds Reed Quintet, Dr. Joey Kluesener. Thank you so much for being here, Joey.
Hi, it's great to be here.
Joey and I met about 16 years ago while we were both studying music at Arizona State University. So Joey, could you please share with us an overview of who you are and what you do as a professional musician?
I'm a bassoonist and I'm based in Chandler, Arizona, which is a suburb of Phoenix. I've been here since 2005 when I moved to pursue graduate studies at Arizona State University. And the work there guided me into the opportunity to drive a lot of chamber music initiatives on my own, study, but then professionally as well. And before that, I grew up and came out of the Midwest and attended the University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music, aka CCM, and studied with Martin James and William Winstead there, as well as some other faculty on on campus. And that was 2001 to 2005. And before that, I was a high schooler, and I started the bassoon in junior high and fell in love with the idea of making music as much as possible at a very glorious level, whatever that meant. And then with a few lucky strokes, ended up at CCM, ended up at ASU. I have 4 degrees in music. I have 2 bachelors. One is a music ed degree and one is performance based. And then a master's and a doctorate in bassoon music performance. The grad degrees are at ASU and the bachelors are at Cincinnati. So currently, as a professional player, my workflow is pretty light because and it has nothing to do with the pandemic or any of those topics. But in 2017, I joined corporate America, and I worked for a tech startup in the facilities maintenance industry that was acquired by a global corporate real estate firm, and have employed since 2018. They emerged with the acquisition. So this is my 4th year in that job. Well, it's different now than it was. Anyways, so there's definitely a time affair that's directly related to what I can do professionally. Before I was in that role, though, I would sub with the Phoenix Symphony as much as I could. There are some regional outfits, orchestras here that you can do work with. Some of them are auditioning. Many of them, I think they strive to be, and they hope to raise their levels and stuff, but it's hard to fund. It's difficult. They have their challenges like everybody. And I also have this feeling like the desert Southwest is not the fountain of classical music America as much as places that were born out of German immigrants and different kinds of cultural backgrounds. So there's a lot of experimentation out here, and that kind of helped me with the entrepreneurial opportunities that I pursued in grad school. So anyways, I would sub with the Phoenix Symphony. I would do these regional gigs, but the majority of the playing I pursued was through chamber music. And that's where the Paradise Winds emerged as a reed quintet. And it actually began in a different instrumentation with just 3 players. But other things professionally I've done is concert curation. So essentially that's artistic direction. But also there was some executive functions associated with that on a small level. Like the budget was teeny tiny, barely 20,000 a year would course through the organization, and there were 4 events. So it was a really small imprint, but it was super valuable just as a developing individual, because that's one of those moments where you see your music skills cross into professional places that aren't musical. And so combination of concert curation, I love programming. I love learning new repertoire and exposing audiences to it. I'm not afraid to endlessly talk, as your viewers will figure out here. um, and I love to bond with individuals over things that are fascinating, like music, you know, in forms of classical, especially classical music, where it's just a human and an instrument and you don't need much technology. I'm not against technology. That's not what I'm saying. I just, that was, and there was so much music that way already on the planet, and including new works for acoustic instrumentations that mattered a lot to me, and I wanted to promote them. So that was the direction that I took. It's really an unusual, I'm pretty confident in saying this, that it's a very unusual path for the bassoonist. I did play some professional auditions. I was a qualified bassoonist by the U.S. Air Force, and that's a great, I think, an interesting story for your function. And then I also auditioned for a regional group and earned principal bassoon with that opportunity. But the scale of that is nothing in comparison to, you know, many of the full-time organizations that have the, you know, the 9-month or 8-month calendar and so many concerts in a pop series and so forth, like that. So the overview essentially is, it's a big mishmash, combination arts admin, combination performance, mostly chamber music. I have associations, and I was a member of a summer organization based out of Virginia called Wintergreen. They're currently called Wintergreen Music, but I'm no longer involved with them. I did 7 seasons, and that was a beautiful opportunity, and I love it there, and I have friends there. So there's a hearty amount of orchestral experience, not like the average orchestral bassoonist, though. I don't try to pair myself into that class. But I guarantee if you've got a chamber piece, I've probably played it a half a dozen times and know more about it than maybe the average, you know, guy, you know, because that was what I had to know. You know, you had to get into that, find out more about the piano part in like the Poulenc sextet, you know, like what is it all about, as opposed to talking about the Mannheim tradition or something like orchestral, you know, focused or whatever might come out of a conductor's mouth. And then I do actually have a small amount of conducting experience too. I really just enjoy the way that you can shape and craft it. And since I can't do that very much these days, I direct my attention in the kitchen and I just cook like a gangster as much as possible. So yeah, that's a good tangent that I'll chase down anytime.
Joey, could you tell us about where you grew up?
I grew up in a town called Reynoldsburg, Ohio. I'm very blessed and lucky. My band director in high school, Brian Stevens, who was just awarded an achievement by the Columbus Symphony Orchestra. It's a suburb of Columbus. And the whole community showed up. His wife generated a surprise for him, and we submitted, you know, letters for nomination, and then they a body awarded him. Anyways, he had a little double reed corner of the state, and there was this weird but wonderful situation where there were like 3 or 4 oboists, most of whom are professionals living and playing professionally in military outfits, and then freelance and university and opportunities and all that combination. But the bassoon factor was kind of light, and somehow I got in the right place at the right time and just developed out of that. And I was able to bond with some of those oboists pretty closely and their teacher, and then decided to well, you know, what can we achieve? You know, I had started the bassoon before that. So anyways, it was just a kind of like a hearty Midwest thing. There's lots of college football focus in that part of the US and the state. We have lots of pride over the OSU if you grow up there and you wear your scarlet and gray. Of course, you eat a lot of casseroles and dip corn chips into things like that. Those signatures. All the local food, I love to visit. I'm actually going to be there for Mother's Day, and it's been I haven't seen my mom all this time. That is pandemic related, So that I'm really jittery and excited about that. And I know exactly where I'm going to eat and what I'm going to do when I'm there.
Joey, could you tell us more about your music teachers and how they influenced you?
This question is so rich.
Mm.
It's in the best and worst ways, you know.
Mm-hmm.
um, there's like a pivotal quote I could probably offer from most of these teachers that I've encountered. I had a major development with Cynthia Cioffari, who is an artist based in Ohio. She allowed me into her studio as a teenager. She taught at the Capital University at the time, and then as professional invited me to participate with her in Virginia in that summer orchestra. So I owe her everything, and I hope she sees this and sees me say that. She really helped a lot. I'm definitely recommending her for your network as well. She came through and let me in when I was like 16, 17. And that was very helpful because it supported a lot of the more technical, mature playing. My band director, Brian Stevens at Reynoldsburg High School, though, he was very influential in that he exposed me to some serious repertoire that I was like, wow, this is like the global world of music in this sound. And there are some pivotal pieces. The Lord of the Rings Symphonic Suite by Johann de Meij. He's all over LinkedIn. Have you ever noticed that?
No.
I hope he sees this too. That's super cool. Yeah, that blew my mind, and I just had craved more as a result. As well, Alfred Reed, I think, La Fiesta Mexicana. There's this. So Mr. Stevens, he had a band that was capable of playing this repertoire, and I jumped all over it. I was thrilled, and he actually gave me a solo opportunity in a duo setting with an oboist who works in the military now, named Grace, and we played a piece called When Jesus Wept, which was an arrangement, originally like euphonium and trumpet, but we did oboe bassoon with the band background. Those were my teenage pivotal kind of moments and teachers. And then I had a very awkward audition at Cincinnati. I got lost in the building. I didn't show up early enough. I think I was physically 20 minutes late to the studio where Bill Winstead and Marty James were waiting for me. Like, I failed miserably at that aspect. The best thing about my audition, and this is something that I think is super valuable for anybody pursuing a career, is that I showed them I could be teachable. So I played whatever I played. It was a French conservatoire piece that one of my first teachers, who works in Kentucky, his name is David Oyen. He would be an excellent also. I participated in a summer event that was a very last minute thing called Lutheran Summer Music, and he introduced me to some repertoire as well, helped pivot me around reed making. I should not leave him out of this narrative because he's wonderful, and he's been able to connect with me in Paradise Winds, as a grown up here in this setting. So David gave me this piece. I pulled it, developed it, tried to get good at it. I played it in a solo and ensemble contest, but college level versus that whole dynamic is not the same. So anyways, Marty James comes up and he's like, here, if you lift your finger here for this, you can get a better leap on this interval, or like try this fingering instead for your A flat. It's more stable, and right away I put it into the phrase or something that I was working on. And then there was like a screaming high D flat in that piece too. And it was, I probably bit it out, so anyways, they gave me some feedback right away, and I was able to kind of show them like, whoa, I can develop something if I'm coached. And I'm pretty sure that's the reason they let me into the studio. I feel like I was the black sheep. I didn't have very good discipline and commitment. And my colleagues, the other students entering at the same time, were far better. And it was, challenging once I entered the course routine and the programming. So anyways, Mr. James was very influential. He could make a reed without any mechanism, just on feel, look, touch, and did so professionally before he was an artist with the Cincinnati Symphony for his career. So I learned a lot about reed making common sense from him. And then Bill Winstead was very technical. Not that they weren't both accomplished, but they had different approaches.
Mm.
Adopting the two of them at Cincinnati into that reed making thing, now I have no fear, excuse me, whatsoever about it. And any student that brings me a reed is very well doctored. You know, I can help them out and keep their costs down and just improve the reed during their, you know, lesson time. So those are some pivotal things, some reed making. And Mr. James, he helped inform me about, like, you're not doing this seriously, man. Like, you need to leave or you need to show up. And I didn't really learn what show up was. It took me a long time, to be honest. And I'm a little embarrassed about that because of what I was then, but now it's okay. I don't know. I got over it, or I realized what was really important and moved on. But it was a challenge. It was a big challenge. I definitely shed a tear or two. I definitely questioned some things, but I still knew that it was the only thing that brought me like pure joy. And so why not try to have a career at joy, you know? Yeah, that was, yeah. And Mr. Winstead, he brought me to a new technical level that I hadn't achieved. And the way he articulated his feedback and his advice was signature. And I have a feeling most of his students who are doing professional activities echo that kind of statement. And I'll, you know, I miss him a lot. I was really sad when he passed away, and it was quick and unexpected and tragic. And I shared some articles, some personal letters in the IDRS journal a few releases ago about it. So I hope people go and read those, because it was really mind blowing what he offered. And then when I went away for the next 2 years, all this advice, I just kept it going into my practice, even though I had a different mentor, and suddenly opportunities were coming out. Like, I played the solo from Beethoven 4th Symphony single tongue and didn't know that I was like a single tonguer at that rate. Like, that was a big development. You know, these little things like that don't really mean much in the grand scheme, but they do as a bassoonist for sure. And so that's what I would write him about. And yeah, so that's the Ohio teachers. And then once I got to Arizona, boy, that was a whole other explosion of information, which is so cool about mixing your artistry from different mentor perspectives. I highly, highly recommend anybody who is taking it seriously, you have to do a combination of influence from your lead. It's not a good idea to have the same thing for the, you know, because eventually, as hard as it is for a teacher to admit, they probably have a cycle. So you're gonna go through the cycle, and you don't want to do it twice, because it's no different. It's nothing new. And so I advise against that. A lot of artists that end up staying put, it's not a healthy, in my opinion. But anyway, Jeffrey Lyman at ASU, when I started, he's, you know, I think he's still at Michigan. I haven't checked in with him in forever. But yeah, but he came out and had this great technical awareness when it came to the score. And he was like, your harmony is giving you interpretive information that you're not reading. You can see so many solutions to expressing yourself. What's the chord structure? Where's the hot note? Where's the weak note? You know, and that blew my analysis way up, and I was thrilled to develop that. The reed thing was not a topic because I had achieved what, you know, a bassist at Cincinnati, and he never had criticism over it, which was a relief. So that's when I just started digging deeply into repertoire, some of which was really experimental, some of which was, and so Jeff, I think he helped me see the full spectrum of the rainbow of music and composition. I played some pivotal pieces with his coach, like the Metamorphoses by Leslie Bassett. That solo piece is wonderful for so many reasons, and he helped me get into it. And that structure I can use every other new piece that hits me. And sometimes you have to go outside of your familiarity zone, but that's kind of exciting for a certain kind of artist, you know. Not everybody's into that. And then my final mentor, this is a long list. I've never had to piece this together. Bless everyone's heart, by the way, for sticking with us this far. I'm just going to say that. My final and probably one of my most generous mentors is Albie Miklish at ASU. And he brought grace to my musicianship, or at least he showed me the target. He was like, you need to hit it right here. This is what Sampson wants you to do with his music. Okay, Joey, this is what you need to shoot for. It's not about the rhythm. It's not about the pace, the speed, the tone, the brilliance. There's this thing. And I'm doing a target effect with my fingers, but I also realize like it's right here. And one of his favorite tips, he didn't do it verbatim so much to me because I was very expressive and dramatic, but he said the aspect of performance is to bare your soul. And that's one of those things about art that is essential and fundamental. So he had a lot of strategy there. And then he also was a great coach at the career field. And I had a hard time getting into it. And I thank him for being patient with me because he was new in his job at the time. I had just won the Air Force job and thought that was going somewhere. I thought I was ready to leap out of academia and that I needed a little help wrapping up a degree requirement that he had to own. But instead, George W. Bush was in office. There was a major war affair, and the Air Force kicked out all newcomers. So I didn't actually get to enlist. I was preparing to, and I was doing all this dramatic fitness for basic training and all stuff. I had to send them a list of my acquisitions so they could see what I owned, which was just a bassoon, basically, and like a snowboard. Nothing. So he decided to let me pursue a doctoral degree with him at ASU. And I hope that's not a regret of his because I'm not busy chasing down jobs and out of that. But man, he has so much to offer, and which you can relate to, of course. So he had great career advice in terms of how to exist in academia. He's one of the first professors that used structured grading too, that I think is more common now, which I hope so. And in the corporate world, data is the only way to make a decision, and it's definitely bleeding into academia. So he had an advantage there, which I kind of attribute to his personal environment a little bit, because his spouse is a super talented individual as well. Like, it's amazing what they've accomplished. So that's it. It's a long list. It goes from like David Oyen to Cynthia to Marty and Bill at Cincinnati, and then Jeff and Albie in Arizona. And there's a sprinkling of some other artists that I've gotten nuggets of gold from. Boy, these guys, at different summer experiences. The Wintergreen Festival I attended as a student, and then also Eastern Music Festival in Guilford, North Carolina, this little college. Some things like that were somewhat pivotal. I played the piano concerto by Ravel, and I had principal, and that high, goodness gracious. And I was using an artist model with upgrades at the time, or not even the upgrades by Fox, and that was like pure bliss luck. I had a great vocal. That was about it. I don't know how it worked out. Yeah. But anyways, so there's these cool series. Oh, that's where I fell in with Michael J. Burns, who's the man. He is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, so I have all these, wonderful network of mentors and influencers that I still carry on today in my own like thought processes, but also what I impart on a student. Like, you need to do it this way. If you care, I learned it from so-and-so and it worked for them. So it's good. It's good advice. Try it, take it seriously, for a while, you know what I mean?
Joey, did you always know that you wanted to go into music for a career?
Yeah, when I was 16, it was like the only thing that I really cared about. I cared so much about it that I stopped doing my AP chemistry homework. And my mother, poor, bless her heart, I think I got an F, like I didn't get credit for the class because homework was optional. The teacher had this attitude like, you're here, you're good, you better just do it. I'm not gonna babysit you. So I think I got some AP credit at Cincinnati for the exam, but not in the high school And I still graduated with honors from my high school, but she was so, rightfully disappointed about that. And then I kept telling them, all those teachers were like, why aren't you doing your homework? And I'm like, I don't care. I lost it's not what I want to do. I want to do this instead. And they're like, well, you still need to get your grades, kid. Like, get it through your head. So that was tough, just in terms of motivation. I had a calculus and some other, what I thought were impressive courses at the time, but I didn't put in the back work, the prep and the homework. So yeah, so I learned pretty early how excitable I was about it, and then I just consumed as much as possible. Napster was really big, and I'm definitely guilty, of some of those habits back then in the U.S. And then I was in the Columbus Symphony Youth Orchestra. That was a wonderful opportunity. And there was even a wind band at Capital University when I was even younger. So just as much as I could, I went out and tried to pursue this. Luckily, the state of Ohio has a great network, and all these universities are busy doing, enrichment, but also recruiting. So that's where I met people like Cynthia, but also Christopher Witt, who's a superhero and a legacy, mentor. And now I play his music with Paradise Winds. Actually, we recorded an original piece, and we're in the process of editing it. So I hope, Mr. Witt, if you see this, that excites you about that. I mean, he knows we're working on it, but yeah. So I knew it was it. I had to do it, and I got somewhere. I don't know if I got exactly where I thought I might, but I definitely have reached some things.
Joey, are there any tips or advice that you could share with us around what you've learned about the music industry since working professionally?
I don't know what I could say that's going to be so different from anyone else. I think it's when I see some of your guests and when I talk to people in the world, we really overdid it. Like, when we were young, we really overreacted to missing a note, to failing. So you should embrace it. If you were a scientist, if you were an inventor, you would ruin it 1,000 times before you got it right. And even then, you may not be a wealthy millionaire off of it, In a world where everyone is streaming a recording and there are few commitments to the real deal, meaning like actual instruments with humans and that kind of thing, the market is teeny tiny on classical. So, excuse me, the chances of you like developing into a thing has to be really, really right. And it doesn't mean you can't do it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that going around and thinking that it's commonly consumed is a bad thought. And I'm guilty of that. I thought that because I felt it so heavily, like there was like the whole galaxy of expression was here within me, that others felt it too. That was dumb. That was super selfish, and it was a poor way of approaching it. So I enjoy that factoid, that if you do get a relationship with an audience, or if you do get a funder, or if you do get some institution, that is like the most blessed opportunity, and you should enjoy it as long as you can, as long as it's good for you. Whatever that means, you have to figure that out for yourself. It was not good for me in the mid 20 teens, because I was entering into a serious adult relationship, and I couldn't support myself and my spouse and our pets and our home and our cars, like all these essentials. And I wasn't reaching retirement goals at all. Like, that's bad. So it was not fun, but I made some changes, to that. I do have some college teaching as well under my belt. I failed to indicate that because I'm bassoon obsessed with you right here. And that teaching was all about music history and rock and roll primarily. So that's another awareness that I've created now, is about the recording industry and what's consumed. So once I started finding that out, it was discouraging. Like, what is a bassoonist going to do? Like, really? Yeah, that was profound, So I found a place, and I decided, like, it doesn't matter who it gets to. If it feeds my soul and my spirit, and the people around me want me there and want me to contribute, that's where it's at. So I can have a day job, I can make some goals happen and support myself, and then I can also pursue it around that. Unfortunately, there's things like time off and vacation, you know, so I can achieve some cool opportunities. I'm really blessed. I really am. It was maybe an awkward or a late bloom in that sense, but that's the thing, is just be patient. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on an opportunity. Don't worry about clamming a note. And don't obsess over what some joker conductor tells you, or somebody that you don't necessarily subscribe to their advice. It's not for everybody. That's the thing. Like, this is not the Lord of you as a learner, as an individual, as a student, as an artist. So it's a convoluted set of advice there, but hopefully something comes good.
It's great advice, Joey. Big picture. Yeah, think about the future. Could you share with us about your teaching philosophies and your approach to teaching music and the bassoon?
Yeah, I like boldness, and I like clarity and brilliance. I think that the bassoon is capable of sticking sound in the corners of the room. And I learned that from one of my music ed mentors. He was like, I want the juiciest pianissimo, and you have to project it all the way to the back of the hall. And he talked about air support, and that was mind blowing, you know, like when I was a youngster. So I encourage people to use full power, full fuel. They won't be able to nuance quiet sounds until they have the breadth of the thing anyway, which is a drag, because middle school directors are like, oh, the bassoon, I don't know how to deal with that. Get out of here. So I definitely go with brilliance and color and fulfillment of the instrument itself. Then there's also enablement. If an individual wants to study with me, there's usually a target they're hitting. That's awesome, because you can structure lots and lots of coaching and curriculum off of a target, and you don't have to tell them what to do because they've already decided. So then, you know, your job is a little different in that sense. You just have to use your skill set or gather information and then show them the way. So enablement is really big. And then I do like the idea of inspiration. Like, did you know that this composer, there's this guy called Claude Debussy? Did you know Igor Stravinsky? OMG. Like, that is, you know, that stuff gets me just jittery and excited. So yeah, did you know that inspiration factor? So it's enablement, it's technique in terms of getting the instrument out, like to play, and then inspiration. Those are kind of the essentials.
Could you share with us about a favorite concert experience that you've performed in or attended?
Oh yeah. Oh man. Attended. Holy mackerel. Yeah. The thing, I did think about this before, and there was a performance that I did in an improvisatory setting. It was for an organization called Classical Revolution, which still has pockets of activity, various parts of the world, but primarily the US as far as I know. And there was a pianist that came with us who was a big composer, and he was very big into American song and American jazz. He studied stride, like he understood some of these piano traditions that are distinctive. And we improvised a movement together. And we didn't even discuss a key. We didn't discuss anything. I think we barely made eye contact during the performance, but it was one of the most profound experiences that I've ever had in a performance setting. Oh Lord, that was really something special. And then there were a handful of recitals that I did at ASU. You may have seen one or two of them, actually. I didn't put that together just yet. Where I dressed in costume, and there was some stage activity that I think were big enhancements on the music. And so I just am such a huge supporter of anybody that knows they can bring more than just the paper and their instrument, you know, and a nice shirt. Like, Yeah, the piece is by Anne LeBaron. I love telling the story. It's called After a Damn It to Hell. That's the name of the piece. And a Damn It to Hell is the most spiciest, aggressive barbecue sandwich sold out of a deep Alabama or Georgia barbecue hut. And the sauce is hot, the rub is hot, and then they throw on some hot seasoning, just hot, hot, hot. So if you think about it for a second, not everybody is built to eat hot. And so the piece was like a literal demonstration of what happens to the body after you damn it to hell. So it's kind of like the Nashville hot chicken equivalent. And that was such a big performance opportunity. And I did it for students, and I did it in a formal setting. And people were hollering with laughter during the performance. That to me was like the most like rock and roll I could have possibly achieved, because you had direct engagement from the audience. And there's this part of the classical world where it's like, you don't make any noise because you're not going to hear it. You're going to ruin something, which is good, but also kind of a shame, because humans are like, wee, you know, they want to let their souls be known with another person bearing their soul or trying to entertain. So like I was into that entertainment aspect quite heavily. There's a couple good examples of that, but I'm lucky that ASU, you know, the recital I did as an undergraduate in Cincinnati, I was really afraid of it. I was not, you know, I got some good feedback and I was like ready, but I was super anxious. So something changed in me when I went to Arizona, and I have some thoughts about it. But the point is that anxiety factor for a future question, it kind of went away because it became fun. It was like, whoa, I'm so excited. I want to play a recital. I want to get into the pianist's part and contribution. I want to bring a violin and a horn and a bass player and a clarinetist and do Till Eulenspiegel in the quintet. Like that just drove me in the best way, you know. So I was really excited about it. I think that's unusual to a degree. There's a lot of artists who like their chair and they like their stand, and and I've got my 3 reeds on my tray, and this is the bogle for this piece, and this is the bogle for blah blah blah, and they're a gearhead and they got all that wrapped up. But I've had more success just like bearing it, just finding a theme and a concept, and then trying to deliver it like that. And that was a big influence off Jeff Lyman. He gets a lot of credit for that kind of approach to performing. I don't know if he would say he's having fun so much, but it was a great feedback, you know, that he shared with me about how to perform. I did John Steinmetz's tango, and he said he danced it back in the day, and I found a way to mess around on stage, and I was wearing some hard shoes with a really good heel, so I could make some rhythmic clacks with my feet. Just little moments like this, you know, to really bring repertoire to life on a stage. Those are some of my favorite performances. I've seen some profound performances too. I saw Dave Brubeck. That was very beautiful and mind-blowing. Lincoln Center Jazz. Bela Fleck, the banjo artist. Oh my gosh, I was so impressionable. I have a photo still. I look like a silly youngster in it, but I'm still up in my studio. And then there are these performances too, where I was conducting that were kind of like out of body experiences. There's a piece called Derivations, which is a clarinet solo with jazz band by Morton Gould. That I've done that with one of my best friends and another good friend, and that was just mind blowing. Plus, one of my pinnacle performances was The Soldier's Tale, L'Histoire du Soldat, Stravinsky. That was in Arizona. That was one of the best ensembles I've ever had the opportunity to assemble, and we did it with stage and it was in a church, but we had actors portraying and a narrator in the whole thing. That was a huge undertaking, but it was worth it in the end. It was a big reward. So yeah, I'm blessed. I can definitely fill a page with performances that were pivotal.
Joey, could you share with us about any tips on how to cope with music performance anxiety?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, practice practice faster than you need, practice in weird ways, play a whole movement standing on one foot. You need to get out of yourself. Imagine what you are being from the audience perspective, because they don't know what's going on in your head. You're just you to them, and they love you, and they probably don't know as much about what you're going through. So why are you going to make it their problem? I love that. Make yourself nervous on purpose. That's a really big one. Play for people that intimidate you but are your pals, or that you can like bargain. Yo, bro, I heard you need some theory help over here. I'll do that if you listen to my lesson repertoire for an hour. Stuff like that. Like really push yourself, and it'll help you overcome. And suddenly when you get on stage, you're like, this is no big deal. I can like, whoa, now it's just me and music. That's the, you know, so if you can get everything else out of the way, some of those factors, certainly as a bassoonist, you better have at least 2 glory reads before that moment. Some people are laughing at me right now, though. They're like, I have 200 glory reads. What's wrong with you? And I'm like, great. I had a great weekend because I wasn't making 200 reads, you know? I'm sorry to sound like flagrant, I guess. But like that works for me. Somehow I was able to get to certain places, you know, through those mechanisms. And when you get feedback, don't ignore it. You have to accept it. Focus on what's mechanical and functional for the feedback that you'll be able to apply to your next presentation. Here's an example. I was in an audition for a local orchestra, and it was like Berlioz, the end of the Symphonie Fantastique, and I played it whatever, and it came out, and it was all there, and I was like relieved. And then the conductor on the other side of the screen asked me to play it at a different tempo. That was like, you know, what happens? And so you just listen. He tapped it out for me, and then I just started. And it, you know, I think I did okay. I won the job. You know what I mean? But yeah, there's these moments, you know, that I think the preparation you can't really always expect. A lot of orchestral auditioning is very standard, which is kind of good because you can develop a routine in that network. So performance anxiety takes on many forms, and the first thing you have to do is be mindful of it. So before you go back into whatever I just said, if you're not aware of it, or you're not understanding what you're being while you're being anxious, you will have a hard time to undo it. And there are artists that I recommend for your network on my list who have done major presentations about these topics. I know you're familiar deeply with them too. So everybody has some form of nervousness in some way. And I think you can very much with a curriculum, with an initiative, you can overcome anything like that.
Joey, what are some important skills learned through music that apply to everyday life?
Creativity and resourcefulness. Yep. That's it. It's just be creative. How are you resourceful? Like I was baking the other day and I didn't have buttermilk. Well, I had lemons and regular milk. Add an acid to an alkali and get, yep, you know, resourceful, creative, what have you. So that's about it. That works in so many places in so many ways. It's definitely paid off in my corporate career, like massively. So I'm a huge, you know, resourcefulness and creativity. Creativity too, it keeps you interesting. Some people are like, I've heard this before, I'm not interested in it. They've been in their job for 20 years and they're, you know, burnt out. So how can you reframe something? How can you alter their experience and then reinvigorate them? And I'm lucky I get to see that in different people in different ways, including myself, which you get big thanks for. This experience has reinvigorated a lot of my bassoon soul in a good way.
Beautiful to hear, Joey. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so pleased. I'm so into it. Thank you.
Is there any advice that you could share for musicians just starting out their music careers?
Step by step. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Don't eat elephants, kids. Don't eat. Take it step by step and get as much influence from other things and sounds and people and, you know, as you can. There's this music philosopher I was introduced to in grad school, Kay Norton, one of my wonderful professors at ASU that you probably cross paths. I think the philosopher's name is Ingrid Monson. And she talks about a thing called intertextuality. It kind of builds off the word context, but you've essentially integrated everything around you that you were ever exposed to, and then you digest it and develop it out yourself. Ray Charles he's recorded in interviews, you know, the super famous Grammy-winning, you know, Ray Charles, right? He talked about everybody has soul and everybody can show their soul. It's just it's just how you show your soul. You might have people showing their soul by like the way they pipe icing on cookies for their kids at the holidays. You might have people bare their souls because they're handy and they're crafty and they build stuff for their home or their family. That's all forms of giving and that's all forms of relating and networking. So that's kind of the way I like to suggest it. Mm-hmm.
And then Joey, finally, is there anyone that you would be interested to suggest to be interviewed next on this project?
Anybody I just told you about. Yeah. Keep asking the world, Julie. We're all like, I know, I'm obviously not afraid to flabbergast with everyone and just talk. But I think it's great that we can network and that you're on the opposite side of the globe, that it's already tomorrow where you are, like that. I just love that. And the chance to share about things I'm proud about, you know. So, but yeah, I'll definitely develop a nice, like, you know, list for you to consider. But all of my mentors who are still with us, I think would be a cool and diverse set of individuals, and they would expand everything, you know, for you. They're teachers, players, they're retired, they're tennis hobbyists, they're hikers, you know, and they have so much to offer. So all we can do is try to connect a little bit and then take on your own intertextuality from their influence and let it, culture you.
Well, thank you so much, Joey, for sharing this interview. It's wonderful to get a glimpse into your life and career as a professional musician.
Thanks for having me, Julie. It's been wonderful.
For everyone tuning in, keep an eye out for 2 events held every week on the Music Link. Every Thursday Central Daylight Time, a new YouTube video launches, and every Sunday Central Daylight Time is a live Zoom group discussion session with great new guests every week that you can register for on the website. Check out Joey's hosting session coming up this Sunday, where he's sharing more about the importance of making connections in music and life, how to start a chamber music group, and how to balance working in the corporate business world and continue playing music. Find out more about Joey and his work at paradisewinds.org. Please like, comment, and share any questions or feedback in the section below, and I'd be happy to incorporate these in the live discussions. Please subscribe to this channel and turn on the bell for notifications, which really helps keep the Music Link moving forward. Check out the Instagram and Facebook pages too for more information. The Music Link is a New Zealand-based resource for people around the world to share, learn, and connect through music. Thank you for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video.